Media contributor and founding editor of Mediaite.com, Colby Hall. Colby, it is great to see you. So we know, Colby, that the president has this war on woke. But what is woke? Before we, talk about the museums, how is woke being defined? Because, how does one go through content, as the president is calling for at these institutions, unless there is a clear definition?
It's a big question, and I think at first it's worth noting that woke emerged as a term in the African-American community that was actually more similar to what Trump is saying now, and that is like, stay aware that there's people out to get there. It was almost a conservative term within the Black community that was surrounding the Ferguson controversy. Now it's being used as, I think, sort of the weaponization of identity politics. And I say this all the time, but I think you could argue easily that the pendulum of identity politics has swung too far. Trump is one, and he's got a bully pulpit, and so he's trying to get that pendulum to swing back to the center and perhaps even over course correct here, because what he's doing now is kind of creepy in my mind. I think it's overdoing it, but how is it that there's this patriotic purity test that's defined by one person? Again, history's written by the winners, and he's the winner right now. But this feels like some fundamentalist thing that you'd hear would go down with the Taliban in Afghanistan. This is, I think, an overreach, and I think you'll see a lot of pushback.
And the Smithsonian is currently about 62% federally funded. And it is so important to note there are plenty of Americans who fully agree with the president. But as we know, removing information does not automatically make that information just go away. It doesn't disappear. But there are questions, Colby, on if the president even has the power to make significant changes like this.
I mean, isn't that the question that defines this administration, right? It feels like President Trump and his administration, I think Stephen Miller is a big player in this, is constantly trying to push to get as much power as possible. And it's in line with his approach when he was a real estate developer, right? Just sort of take it as far as you can, and if it doesn't work out for you, sort of tie it up in lawsuits, right? That's sort of the approach here. And, the other big part of this is the conflict that he knows, A, is a distraction from an economy that's maybe not as hot as he'd like you to think that it is. And the Epstein scandal, which is kind of taking a break, this is a different fight with egg-headed elitist academics, in his mind, who maybe are talking too much about the negative history in American history, slavery. But again, those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. And I don't think we're going to repeat slavery, but there's a reason why we sort of celebrate and research and learn about our past transgressions, because it gives us greater insight in the human condition. And so by fiat saying one guy can decide what is worth sort of celebrating and looking at a museum, that's not very democratic. So I think there's going to be pushback. I think this is more of a conflict designed to distract, but it has scary, chilling, intonations and effects that we should all be aware of.
Colby, let's say that this administration does, successfully remove information. We don't know what will happen. My question is, if Democrats win, let's say the next election, is it all likely to go back? And then are we living in a nation where our historical information is based on the current administration, whomever may be in office?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it sort of is perfectly parallels what we're seeing with the gerrymandering and the redistricting thing. Like, they did it first, we're doing it now. And, forever our governors, it's been partisan, but it was built on this sort of basic social decorum and acceptance that we weren't gonna weaponize everything, right? And I can't say that Trump invented this. He's done it way more effectively. The Democrats have done the same. But if we're just only going to be focusing on hitting back, I mean, you could easily see that's why it's a slippery slope, right? If you're going to weaponize this on one end, you're opening up the sort of excuse for the next side to do the same. And I'm sure Trump and many in his administration are making that sort of, or using that as an example of why they are going after Obama with, sort of treasonous case, which I think is paper thin, but it's a slippery slope. And this is a fight that I think that he will relish because it's a distraction, gets us talking about him. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere because I think ultimately it's foolish.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.